On the night of September 12th, 1992, Alan Ferris arrived to Walt Disney World's Epcot Center. Bag over the shoulder, he strolled towards the gate of Walt Disney's Vision of Tomorrow. With the moonlight shimmering off the iconic white globe of Spaceship Earth, Alan was greeted by Disney staff as they concluded another magical day. And that's when everything went terribly wrong. The park had closed 2 hours prior, and believing that Alan had become lost, 3 security guards approached him to usher him out of the park. To their horror, that's when Alan J. Ferris, 37, of Rochester, New York, withdrew the sawed-off shotgun from his bag and fired 4 shots. The guards started to run. Alan fired another shot, yelling at them to stop or that he'd kill them. 2 of them stopped. One of them was able to get away and call the sheriff's office. Alan then marched the 2 security guards about 200 yards to the restrooms next to the Imagination Pavilion. There, he held them hostage for the next 10 minutes. Inside, Alan paced back and forth. This had not gone how it was supposed to. He had come to see his ex-girlfriend, who was also a security guard. But he didn't get the chance. You see, they had ended their relationship on her account months prior after 8 years. She had gotten a protective order, and it was devastating to Alan. When he had left his family home in New York 3 days prior, he had told them that he was going to a wedding. But nothing had gone the way it was supposed to. During this time, deputies had arrived and set up a perimeter and begun trying to reason with Alan. After a short period, Alan released the guards and emerged from the bathroom. Deputies ordered him to drop the shotgun, and he yelled back, "No, just shoot me, you're going to have to kill me." He turned and walked towards the pavilion. He then raised the gun to the side of his face and pulled the trigger. But the gunshot wasn't immediately fatal. He struggled with deputies over the gun, but he was quickly losing blood. Deputies were able to restrain him so that the on-scene paramedics could jump in and start to try to save Alan's life. As they loaded him onto the helicopter, he was no longer moving. Alan Ferris was pronounced deceased on arriving to Orlando Regional Medical Center. This is a tragic story that takes place at one of the happiest places on Earth. But here's today's question. Does anyone actually die on Disney park property? Hello, super sleuths, and welcome back to the Science Detective. I'm your host, Detective Zack Kowalski. I'm a real-life crime scene investigator, and I've spent my career using science to solve death and crime. Today, we're diving into a myth that's as magical as it is mysterious. The claim that no one dies while on Disney park property. So could it be true? Does the most magical place on Earth have the extraordinary ability to stave off death? Or is it just a fairy tale? Grab your magnifying glasses and buckle up because we're going to find out. Oh, and please stand clear of the doors. Ah, Disney parks, a world of wonder where dreams come to life. But lurking behind the laughter and fairy tales is a peculiar myth, that no one dies here. But what does the science say about this? Well, let's investigate. First off, let's clarify. People have unfortunately faced medical emergencies at Disney parks and resorts. However, this urban legend stems from more of a technicality. It's said that no death certificates are issued for deaths that occur in the park. But why? Is there a magical force field that prevents the inevitable? Or is it a matter of legal and forensic semantics? In the world of forensic science, the time and location of death are crucial. When somebody is critically injured at a Disney park or resort and later dies at the hospital, the death is recorded as happening at the hospital, not at the park. This practice, though, isn't exclusive to Disney. It's a common procedure in many places to ensure accurate medical records. To understand this, we have to define the difference between biological death and legal death. Let's start with biological death. This term refers to the cessation of biological function that sustains a living organism. Essentially, it's the point at which the body's vital systems, being the respiratory system, the circulatory system, and any kind of brain function, irreversibly ceases to operate. In the context of forensic science, confirming biological death involves more than just observing the absence of somebody's not breathing or a heartbeat. It requires paramedics or a physician to examine a patient's autonomic responses. And this uses instruments like portable EKGs or EEGs to assess heart function and brain activity. Now let's compare this to legal death. Legal death is a bit different. It's a declaration. The declaration is made based off of medical evidence, but fundamentally, it's a legal status. It marks the point at which a person is officially recognized as deceased under the law. This pronouncement is typically made by a medical doctor, though in certain states, depending on the law, it can be made by a registered nurse or a paramedic. For this to be declared by a paramedic or a nurse, certain criteria typically have to exist. This may be trauma that is incompatible with life, such as decapitation or incineration, the presence of rigor mortis or lividity, or the evidence of decomposition. Most paramedics still have to contact a physician by phone, though, so that they can obtain the official time of death, because the doctor ultimately is the one who has to sign off on the death certificate. Understanding the nuances between biological and legal death is essential for us in forensic science. And while the magic of Disney parks is strong, it doesn't extend to altering the facts of life and death. This legend, it seems, is more about perceptions and technicalities than it is about actual forensic science, as there are multiple documented cases of fatalities on Disney property. In the early morning hours of July 5th, 2009, two trains in the same Disney monorail line crashed, resulting in a fatality. According to the National Transportation Safety Board, a shop panel operator failed to switch over a track from the Epcot line to the Magic Kingdom Express line. This resulted in the monorail pink train colliding in reverse into the monorail purple train at the Ticket and Transportation Center. 21-year-old monorail pilot Austin Winberg died as a result at the scene. The NTSB cited the Walt Disney World's lack of standard operating procedures, leading to an unsafe practice when reversing trains on the monorail system. I'll put a link to the NTSB report in the description down below. On the afternoon of February 11th, 2004, during the Share a Dream Come True parade, Disney employee Javier Cruz, who was a costume cast member playing Pluto, was run over and killed by one of the parade floats. The fatal accident occurred just before entering the public viewing area in Frontierland, and Walt Disney World was fined $6,000 for the OSHA accident. Then there's the account of Dolly Young. On the afternoon of January 4th, 1984, 48-year-old Dolly Regina Young was visiting Disneyland in California with friends. Around 3:30 in the afternoon, Young and her friends loaded into a bobsled at the base of the Matterhorn ride. Young was sitting alone in the back. At some point during the ride, Young's seatbelt became unbuckled, and it's unknown how the seatbelt became unbuckled. As Young's bobsled was halfway down the track, she was thrown from the ride cart and onto the track. Guests in the Skyway gondola above witnessed the next horrific aspect of this tragedy. They stated that as she was getting up, the next ride car came hurtling around the corner. It struck her, decapitated her, and then became lodged on top of her body. There have been several accounts over the past 50 years of fatal heart attacks, accidents, traffic collisions, and hotel suicides. I chose not to highlight any of the child deaths that have occurred on Disney property because, quite frankly, it's really sad to read about. There have been several, and they all mostly involve automotive accidents, drownings, and an alligator attack. In my research for this video, I came across a very comprehensive blog post by the Southern California law firm that breaks down the 93 Disney-related fatalities, and I'll leave that link in the description below. Growing up, we went to Walt Disney World on several family vacations. I'm truly a Disney kid with a hidden Mickey tattoo and a Magic Kingdom engagement photo to prove it. I've seen this urban legend of no one dies at Disney pop up on social media over the years, with it most recently surfacing on TikTok. The theme is usually the same, in that the Disney company doesn't want anyone to officially pass away at the parks because it would be bad for business. But clearly, that's not true. Death is terrible, but it's inevitable. Disney parks are, I would argue, some of the safest places in the world, and the stats back me up on this. Consider this. On average, in the Walt Disney World Resort in Florida, there are about 58 million visitors a year. Between 2016 and 2020, Disney reported 72 injuries or illnesses, to include 12 deaths, to the Florida Department of Agricultural and Consumer Services. That's a 1 in 4 million chance of being injured or reportedly ill. For context, your chance of being struck by lightning in the US is 1 in 15,000. That doesn't change the fact that death does occur in the parks. And in the words of the Haunted Mansion's ghost host, there's always room for one more. So there you have it, detectives. The myth of no one dies at Disney is more a matter of semantics and procedures than it is magical truth. If you enjoyed today's video, then let Bonesworth and I know by hitting that like button and commenting down below. I'd love to hear what your favorite ride is. Hey Bonesworth, what's your favorite ride? Mine, 100% Space Mountain. Consider also subscribing to the channel. It really does help a small channel like ours, and we'd love to add you to our community of super sleuths. Thanks for going on this roller coaster of a ride with us today. I'm Detective Zack, this is Bonesworth, and until next time, stay curious. Ready for it? M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S-E. Hey there, hi there, ho there, you're as welcome as can be. Welcome to the Science Detective, where we're gonna do science.